Hello, everyone present. So, as Melinda has already introduced me, my topic for today's talk is one very close to my heart. Many people live invisible lives, overgiving, overfunctioning, and silencing their true needs in the name of duty, responsibility, or acceptance. But when the boundaries are ignored and energy is depleted, the result is exhaustion, burnout, and disconnection from self. So, this session reframes the empowerment through the lens of emotional boundaries, energy, and self leadership. So, through stories, reflection, and practical strategies, in this session, we will learn how to move from being invisible to being invincible by recognizing the invisible patterns of self sacrifice and burnout, reframe boundaries as a source of strength and influence, and reclaim energy and embrace self leadership in all areas of life. So, how many of you here have ever felt invisible? You give your all at work, at home, in your relationships, and yet somehow you're not truly seen or valued. I know that feeling. I've lived it. And I know many of you have lived it too. We live in a world that celebrates strength and sacrifice, but often overlooks the invisible labor, the unspoken weight, the quiet exhaustion. How many times have you been the one holding everything together at work, in your family, in your community, but no one noticed the toll it took on you? Invisibility is not about disappearing, it's about being fully present, doing the work, carrying the weight, and still being overlooked. It's about being the reliable one, the one who makes sure everyone else is okay, while silently neglecting yourself. Since childhood, many of us are trained into this role. We are told, be nice, don't upset anyone, put others first, don't complain. At first, it sounds harmless, but as the years go by, it grows into perfectionism, people pleasing, and over responsibility, which often intertwine, creating a cycle that drains energy and erodes self worth. Perfectionism is a mirage. It's just like you're chasing a mirage. It convinces us that if we just work a bit harder or if we achieve more, we'll finally feel enough. But the truth is, perfection is an illusion, and striving for it often leads to anxiety, burnout, and self doubt. People pleasing, on the other hand, stems from the deep desire to be liked or accepted. But it can cause us to sacrifice our own needs and identity to make others happy. It's like pouring from an empty cup. Eventually, there's nothing left for ourselves. Over responsibility ties these together. As we take one, as we take on more than we should, believing it's our job to fix everything, to fix everyone, and this can lead to resentment and exhaustion as we carry burdens that aren't ours to bear. We become the caretakers, we become the peacemakers, the fixers. We try to smooth over conflicts. We swallow our anger to stay nice. We just keep saying yes when every part of us wants to say a no. And slowly, piece by piece, we fade behind the roles we play. Let me share a story from my own life. For years, I was the one everyone could rely on. At work, I was the dependable one, always saying yes, always showing up. At home, I was the problem solver, the one who held everything together. On the outside, I looked successful, steady, strong. But behind the mask of reliability, I was collapsing. I was exhausted. I was drained. I was running on empty. I gave and gave and gave until I had nothing left to give or nothing left for myself. That's what invisibility feels like. Outwardly capable, inwardly crumbling. People see your results, but they don't see your reality. They applaud your strength, but they miss your struggle. And you start to wonder, does anyone really see me? The cost of invisibility is immense: burnout, emotional exhaustion, and for many, even physical illness. Science now shows that chronic stress and suppressed emotions, they can fuel conditions like autoimmunity, illnesses where the body literally turns against itself. It's as though the body is saying, if you won't set boundaries for me, I'll set them for you. Think about that. Your own body trying to speak for the voice that you have silenced. But here's the truth: invisibility is not a weakness, it is just a weight of years of cultural conditioning, perfectionism, and unspoken expectations. And the longer we carry that weight, the further we drift from ourselves. But here's the hope: weight can be lifted by cultivating self compassion and learning to set boundaries. And when it is, you begin to move from invisible to invincible. We often try to be superheroes for everyone in every situation, saying yes to everyone, showing up even when we are drained. As empathetic humans, we don't just feel our own emotions, we absorb the emotions of everyone around us. And while empathy is a gift, it can also be deeply draining. The world tells us this is a good thing, that sacrifice is strength, that being available all the time is noble. So even when you're uncomfortable, we still show up. We say yes when we mean no. We push past our limits because we fear becoming irrelevant, insignificant, or even losing someone we love. But here's what's happening. Slowly, we begin to run on empty. Compassion turns into compassion fatigue. We give from our leftovers, not our fullness. And in the process, we're no longer fully present for anyone, not even for ourselves. So let me share a story of one of my clients, or about a woman who worked with me, who I worked with. So her name was Hazel. She was known as the dependable one in her company, the person you could always count on to stay late. She used to pick up an extra work. She used to smooth over the conflicts. Her boss praised her as a rock, and her colleagues leaned on her constantly. But when Hazel came home at night, she was so exhausted, she could barely function. She had no energy left for her family, no space left for herself, and over a period of time, no energy for even carrying out the work. So she told me that I feel like I give my best to everyone, but I'm just left with leftovers. I can't give my full, complete, even at my work or at my home. So that's where I told her that this is where boundaries should come in. Now, boundaries, they're often misunderstood. We think of them as walls, as barriers that keep people out. But that's not true. Boundaries are not barriers, They are bridges. Think, think of it like a farmer before a storm. He doesn't build walls to shut the world out. He builds a stronger fence to protect his crops, to preserve life, to ensure that what he has planted can grow and thrive. Boundaries, they work in a same way. They don't push people away, they teach people how to meet us with respect. They protect our physical as well as emotional energy so that we can show up. We can show up with presence, with clarity, with strength, and not leftovers. And here's the shift: boundaries aren't about rejection, they're about protection of your time, your energy, your truth. They're the foundation that allow you to trust yourself again. Here's something we often get wrong about boundaries: boundaries do not mean telling someone else how they must behave. Boundaries mean deciding how you will respond if they continue to behave the same way. For example, if someone raises their voice at you, you cannot control whether they shout or not, but you can decide that if this happens, I will calmly leave the room. I will not stay and absorb it. Boundaries aren't about control, they're about clarity. And here's the deeper truth: we must first practice boundaries with ourselves before we ever set them with others. That means noticing the ways we abandon ourselves. When we say yes while our heart says no. When we work through exhaustion instead of resting. When we silence our truth just to avoid conflict. The first step is setting a self boundary, honoring your own limits, your own needs, your own truth. Once you practice this with yourself, setting boundaries with others becomes natural. Because boundaries, they are not punishment. They're there to protect your energy, your dignity, and your ability to stay aligned with your truth. So, how do we begin to practice setting healthy boundaries? I want to share three simple but powerful ways you can start today. The first one being the gentle no. Most of us struggle with saying no because we've been taught that it makes us selfish or unkind. But saying no isn't rejection, it's direction. The gentle no allows you to decline with kindness, without apology, and without over explaining. For example, thank you for asking, but I can't commit right now. Notice what's not in that sentence. There is no apology, there's no long excuse. It's clear, kind, and respectful to yourself and to the other person. Every time you say a gentle no, you are saying a powerful yes to your health, to your time, and to your energy. The second rule is the body first rule. Before you automatically say yes, pause. Ask yourself, does this feel heavy or light in the body? Your body always knows before your mind begins to rationalize. If something feels heavy, constricting, or draining, that's your intuition telling you this is not aligned. If it feels light, expansive, or peaceful, that's a yes. We're so used to overriding our body's wisdom with logic, guilt, or fear of disappointing others. But when you learn to trust your body's signals, you start building self trust again. The third one is energy check ins. Boundaries aren't just about time, they're about energy. Every day, ask yourself, where is my energy going? Is this nourishing me or depleting me? Think of your energies like a bank account. If you keep withdrawing without depositing, you'll go into an emotional overdraft. Energy check ins help you see what drains you, what sustains you, and what restores you. When you become intentional about your energy, you stop giving the people the leftovers of yourself and start showing up with your best self. When we honor our boundaries, protect our energy, we stop betraying ourselves and we become our own superhero. And that's where invincibility begins. Now, let's talk about energy. Why? Because your energy is your life force. It is the fuel for everything you do. And here's the truth: every yes you give is an exchange of energy. When you give those yeses out of guilt, out of obligation, out of fear, you overspend. You leak energy in conversations, in commitments, in situations that are misaligned. And slowly, you end up running on empty. So, how do we begin to reclaim it? Let me share three simple but powerful practices to reclaim your energy. The very first one is schedule rest as sacred. We schedule meetings, we schedule deadlines, we schedule appointments, but how often do we schedule our rest? I want you to bring treating rest as sacred. Put it in your calendar, block it as if you would a business meeting, and honor it as non negotiable. Rest isn't laziness, rest is restoration. It's how your mind, body, and spirit refuel so you can show up fully. Remember, when you don't schedule rest, your body will eventually force it through burnout, illness, or collapse. So rest on your terms, not on exhaustion's terms. The second practice is ground daily. Every day, take a few minutes to reset your nervous system. It doesn't have to be complicated, simple. Three deep breaths, 2 minutes of journaling, or just a quiet pause without your phone. These micro moments send a message to your body: I'm safe, I'm present, I'm here. Think of it like plugging in your phone to the charge. We would never let our phones drain to 1% and expect them to keep working. So, why do we expect that from ourselves? The third one is declutter your commitments. One of the biggest drains on energy is carrying commitments that no longer serve you. I invite you to ask yourself, what am I holding on to that I no longer need? Maybe it's a committee you joined out of obligation, a social group that leaves you feeling drained, or even a habit of saying yes to things that don't light you up. Just like decluttering your home creates space, decluttering your commitments frees your energy. This week, just release one thing that no longer serves you, that one choice that can create ripple effects of freedom. Reclaiming energy is not an indulgence. It is not being selfish. It is survival. It is sustainability. It is strength. Because when your energy is whole, you are whole. And when you are whole, you can finally show up with clarity, confidence, and presence for yourself and for others. That's a step towards living your life with self leadership. Self leadership is the foundation of all leaderships. Before we can lead others, teams, or even families, we must first learn how to lead ourselves. And self leadership, it always begins with self awareness. True self leadership means knowing where we shine and where we struggle. It means being honest about our strengths and also courageous enough to face the places we need to grow. But it doesn't stop here. It is about choosing to lead your life with clarity, trust, and purpose. It's about making choices that align with your values, your truth, and your energy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means disappointing others. When you practice self leadership, you stop outsourcing your worth to external approval. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission. You stop living on autopilot. Through my Elixir pathway, that's explore, learn, implement, experience, ignite, and reclaim, I've witnessed incredible transformations. People who were stuck in cycles of self doubt or burnout discovered that once they stopped waiting for the world to validate them and started leading themselves, everything shifted. They found clarity, they found confidence, and they found freedom. So let's pause here for a quick reflection exercise. You can just close your eyes for just a moment. And I want you to think of one area of your life where you know deep down you need to say a no. Maybe it's a responsibility that drains you. Maybe it's a relationship where you've been giving too much. Maybe it's a habit that keeps you small. Now imagine you actually said no. Imagine the weight that would lift. Imagine the energy that would return to you. Imagine the freedom you would feel. That moment, that choice is self leadership. Because leadership isn't about how many people you manage or how many titles you hold. Leadership begins the moment you take ownership of your own life. It begins when you stop betraying yourself and start honoring yourself. So, this is how we've journeyed together today from invisibility to invincibility. And let me be clear, invincibility does not mean being unbreakable. We all are humans. We can stumble, we can fall, we all have moments of doubt. But invincibility means being unshakable in your truth. It means standing rooted in your worth, no matter what storm comes your way. It means protecting your energy so that when life demands more of you, you have something left to give. And it means leading yourself first before you ever try to lead anyone else. So, just summarizing, boundaries, they are foundation. They are how you protect yourself from being drained and diminished. They are how you teach others how to treat you and how you treat yourself. Energy is the resource. Without it, you are running on empty, giving from your leftovers. When you reclaim your energy, you show up whole, vibrant, and present, not depleted and resentful. Self leadership is the result. When you honor your boundaries and protect your energy, you build trust with yourself. And that trust becomes clarity, which in turn becomes confidence, which in turn becomes the courage you live aligned with your truth. So, this is a pathway to become invincible from boundaries to energy to self leadership and finally invincibility. So, true empowerment begins when you stop betraying yourself and start leading yourself. So, here's my invitation. This week, Choose one boundary that honors your energy, just one single boundary. Protect it fiercely and watch how it transforms not just your life, but the lives around you. Because the world doesn't just need more leaders, it doesn't just need more influencers, it needs more authentic, visible, and self led leaders. And that begins with you. So, from being invisible to being invincible, that is your journey, that is your power, and that is your gift to the world. Thank you so much.